Yo, what's going on? Mike from Mike Talk Sports. So Jaylen Brown, the co-star of the Celtics team that just went to the finals, just offered up some criticism to the Celtics fans. Today in this video, I'm going to be analyzing, is Jaylen Brown ever going to leave the Boston Celtics? So Jaylen Brown just basically came out and basically stated the elephant in the room. Let's be completely honest. And he said that basically some Celtics fans, not all, not every single one of them, not the majority, but some Celtics fans are toxic. Now, I don't think this is too controversial, and this was the inspiration of today's video, but to me, this is not a significant factor in whether Jaylen Brown is going to end up leaving the Celtics or not. At the end of the day, these guys play for themselves. These guys play for their brothers, their teammates, in the organization. Sorry to say, fans, sorry to say to everybody who is a Celtics fan, Jaylen Brown doesn't really play for you. Now, obviously, at the end of the day, he's an entertainer, and entertainers wouldn't have their jobs without the fans, and he completely understands that, and I think most athletes understand that and respect fans from that aspect. But most players, and I think Jaylen Brown fits into this category, kind of has passion for the game, has passion for his teammates and for people he loves, and not necessarily the fans, because he knows at the end of the day, especially Celtics fans, and I think this is what he's alluding to, Celtics fans are loyal to the brand. They're loyal to that Celtics logo. They're not loyal to any particular player that's on the roster. They're going to love you if they're on your roster, and they're going to hate you and boo you if you're not on the roster. I think Jaylen Brown understands there's that distinction in the fact that he gets cheered so heavily by the Celtics fans. The second if he left the Celtics, he'd get booed relentlessly. I think he saw how they treated Kyrie Irving when he left the Celtics and said, yeah, there's really no love between me and the Celtics fans. And I don't think that's necessarily a bad thing. But getting into Jaylen Brown and why I believe Jaylen Brown will not be a lifelong Celtic really has to do with his emergence as a superstar player in this league. So I think people act as though Jaylen Brown is some guy that was picked in the late 20s who ended up emerging as this star player. This is not the case at all. I think everyone forgets that Jaylen Brown is still only 26 years old, but he's starting to get to the point where he wants to create his own legacy at 26 years old. He was the third pick in the 2016 NBA draft, and he's at a point now where he's really coming to his own. He's always been a great player, a great defender, and a very efficient offensive player and offensive scorer, but now he's averaging 26.7 points per game, 7 rebounds per game, 3.4 assists per game on 34% from three, 49% from the field, and he's a two-time All-Star. Something I think is also very noteworthy is how he played in the playoffs last year, specifically the NBA Finals. He was the Celtics' best player in the NBA Finals. I get it, Jason Tatum was injured in that Finals. And to me, a big factor of Jaylen Brown staying all of these years and continue to stay the next couple of years if he doesn't end up leaving in free agency in 2024, which we'll talk about in a second, is that relationship with Jason Tatum. They always talk about how they have such a phenomenal relationship and how they want to build a legacy together. It kind of reminds me of Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo. But the thing is about a Chris Middleton and Giannis Antetokounmpo relationship, there's a clear-cut number one MVP candidate, and there's a clear-cut number two. The thing with the Celtics and Jaylen Brown, sometimes Jaylen Brown distinctively looks better than Jason Tatum. Sometimes Jason Tatum distinctively looks better than Jaylen Brown. It's really a night-to-night basis thing. There's never a Celtics game I watch at tip-off and go, yeah, Jaylen Brown's no doubt going to be better than Jason Tatum tonight, or no doubt Jason Tatum is going to be better than Jaylen Brown tonight. So when there's a duo where that is the case, it always makes it tough on them lasting a long time together, because it gets to a point where that second fiddle, there's always a guy who's the de facto second fiddle, which on this team it is Jaylen Brown. At some point he's going to go, I averaged 26 points a game, almost 27 points per game, extremely efficiently. I was the best player on an NBA Finals team that went 6 games with the Golden State Warriors. In Game 6, back up against the wall, I shot 52% from the field. I scored 34 points. I played over 40 minutes. At what point does it take for me to be the best player on a great team? I know I can get there. Something that really also sets this all off is the trade rumors. Jaylen Brown, for him to be such a phenomenal player, the third pick in the draft by this organization, and for him to consistently year in and year out for the last 2-3 years be in trade rumors specifically for Kevin Durant. Now, the Kevin Durant trade rumors that happen at the trade deadline with Jaylen Brown, I don't really buy into those too much. They really dismiss those rumors. But the trade rumors about Kevin Durant and Jaylen Brown dating back a year ago, 2 years ago, I absolutely think there's fire where there is that smoke. And to me, Jaylen Brown's the type of guy to honestly take it personally, and how can he not? He's played so good for this organization, and he's consistently in trade rumors, and I don't care that it's for Kevin Durant, one of the best players on earth. Jaylen Brown and I look at it as, how would you want to trade me for a 1-year rental, a 2-year rental, a guy who doesn't even want to go to this organization, a guy who's a very flaky teammate, who's going to flame out in every single location he's been to, a guy who's chronically injured, a guy who has significantly more miles and significantly less years left in him? How could you trade him for me? I'm a significantly better defender as him as well, and I'm just a higher effort, better culture player at this point in my career. I think it's absolutely silly that the Celtics have put Jaylen Brown in trade rumors, and I think he feels disrespected and slighted by his organization in a sense. So Jaylen Brown is going to be an unrestricted free agent in 2024. To me, I think he ends up re-signing with the Celtics, but to me, after this contract, I envision him leaving for some of the reasons I've already detailed. Another one that I genuinely think is worth mentioning for a second: Jaylen Brown went to Cal. Jaylen Brown is an activist. Jaylen Brown is an extremely intelligent guy. I think in a hypothetical world where you test every single NBA player's IQ, pound for pound, Jaylen Brown has a top 10 IQ in the NBA. He's an extremely smart guy. He's extremely active in his community. He loves Atlanta. He grew up in Atlanta. He always goes to Atlanta for protests, public speaking events, things of that nature. And to me, the more intelligent a guy is, the harder it is to keep him happy. So when you have a extremely intelligent guy in Jaylen Brown, he knows his worth to the exact margin, and he feels as though the Celtics are not valuing his worth enough. And I truly do think a direct piece of evidence of this is not only that he's not the star player on the Celtics, but more importantly, again, he has been in trade rumors. So how can Jaylen Brown, an extremely intelligent guy, not say to himself, this organization isn't valuing me, I'm in trade rumors, this is ridiculous? To end the video, I think this is maybe the most important aspect of this all, is the fact that Jaylen Brown could be the best player on over half of the teams in the NBA. I'm going to list off every single team I think Jaylen Brown would be the number one on right away. I think some of them are debatable, some of them are close, but in my opinion, Jaylen Brown would be the best player on 57% of NBA teams, or 17 out of 30 NBA teams. And if you are the best player on 17 out of 30 teams in the NBA, how could you not at some point when you're 28, 29, 30 years old, right before you hit that age where you start to decline at 33, 34, 35, how could you not test out the waters and say, you know what, let me try to be the number one option. Let me try to build my own legacy. So to me, he's the best player on the Knicks, the Nets, the Heat, the Hawks, the Raptors, the Bulls, the Pacers, the Wizards, the Magic, the Hornets, the Pistons, the Kings, the Timberwolves, the Thunder, the Jazz, the Rockets, and the Spurs right now. So if I can confidently read off 10 NBA teams he'd be the best player on right now, no question about it, and I could honestly read off another 7 teams I truly do believe he'd be the best player on as well, and a lot of these teams are good playoff teams as well that go very far in the NBA playoffs if Jaylen Brown was their number one, like a team like the Miami Heat. Then to me, Jaylen Brown at some point is going to want a divorce from the Celtics. He's going to want to be his own best player on the best team in the NBA. I do think he has that confidence in himself, and I have confidence in Jaylen Brown that he can even emerge as a better player than he's already shown to me. So in my opinion, if I had to predict, I think Jaylen Brown sticks on the Celtics for another 3 to 4 years, but I do think at some point before he hits the age of 33, he will be gone from the Boston Celtics.